2020
This
work
conference
session.
will now be recorded.
Time is 7:30, and this is the September 10th, 2020 work session of the Allendale Mayor and Council meeting. Welcome to everyone who is joining us via teleconference, probably not video. We are having some issues with Optimum with our modem, so we cannot project our meeting video-wise, nor could we see you video-wise. So, but the show must go on, and we're going to do it through audio. So that's how everyone will be hearing us, and that's how we will be hearing you. We ask that you please mute your devices at this time so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There'll be several opportunities for the public to be heard tonight, and we'll advise you at the appropriate times. And since we're not going to be able to see you, but we will give ample time to find out if anyone wishes to be heard and let them be heard. So we will proceed with the work session agenda, the Open Public Meeting Act announcement. Michelle, if you could please read that.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting by the September 7, 2020 Sunshine Notice was sent to the record, the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger, and has been posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and borough website.
Great, thank you. And if you could please conduct the roll call.
Councilwoman Homan.
Here.
Councilman O'Connell.
Here.
Councilman O'Toole.
Here.
Councilman Sasso.
Here.
Councilman Strouch.
Here.
Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Here.
And Mayor Bernstein.
Here, thank you. So a public comment, and this is the first of 3 opportunities tonight to speak. This is during the work session. So anyone from the public wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes of time, 5-minute time limit to address the governing body. So I would ask at this time, if you wish to be heard, to please get my attention now, to please state your name and you wish to be heard. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard?
Hello, Mayor Bernstein. This is Kristen Sarnas, 74 Heights Road.
Hi, Kristen. How are you tonight?
Very good. Thank you. I just wanted to offer 2 thank yous, actually 3 thank yous. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for the information that you actually sent me on the New Jersey state regulations regarding deer hunting. And I'm able to move forward what I need to with that information. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. And as we discussed, that it is our intention to make some of that information, or at least in a logical, respectable fashion, make that available on our website. And I know Councilman O'Connell is in the process of trying to sift through it, cull through it, pun maybe not intended, and find out what to put on the website.
Great, thank you again.
You're welcome.
I also wanted to thank, I think it's probably Councilwoman Wilsinski for this. Thank you for the really lovely September 11th announcement that you sent out from the borough. It's got the full agenda, all the speakers, the whole, all the special speakers. It's just very, very nicely done.
You're very welcome. Will you be attending?
I don't know yet, but I'm hoping to.
Okay, great. I hope to see you there.
Thank you. And then the last thank you, do we have Ron Kistner on the phone?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, great. Hi, Mr. Kistner. I just wanted to thank you. I just received the email response that you sent me tonight regarding my neighborhood issue. And I still have a couple of questions, but I just wanted to say thank you publicly for answering most of my questions in an email today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Great, Kristen, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else from the public who wishes to be heard at this time? Not seeing anyone, I'll close the meeting to the public during the work session. Next on the agenda is we have 2 presentations. Tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of September 11th attacks. It's hard to even say, it's hard to believe it's been 19 years. And I will be reading a proclamation to remember those that lost their lives and honor those heroes that provided selfless service. 19 years later, through this pandemic, we continue to see the same selfless acts by our first responders. But I do want to read this. This is something that I'd like to have a packed house but and we will have our 9/11 ceremony tomorrow, which I know Amy will be speaking about. But this is a proclamation that I'm reading and that I'm signing. Whereas on September 11, 2001, the peace and security of our great nation was shattered by terrorist attacks that killed nearly 3,000 innocent and brave people at the World Trade Center towers in New York City, at the United States Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and in the fields of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And whereas although the terrorist goals was to strike a powerful blow to the hearts of all Americans and tear at the fabric of our nation, arising from the very ashes of that tragedy came a remarkable spirit of unity, compassion, and determination that will never be forgotten. Just as we will never forget those who were lost and injured on that day and in the days and years that followed, and those who rose in service during the rescue and recovery effort in the defense of our nation, both here at home and abroad. Whereas the tragic events of that day instantly transformed lives, some through personal loss, and many others through an unfamiliar sense of individual and national vulnerability. Whereas an unprecedented historic bonding of Americans arose from the collective shock, unifying the country in an outpouring of national spirit, pride, selflessness, generosity, courage, and service. And whereas many brave people heroically, tirelessly, and courageously participated in an extraordinarily difficult and dangerous rescue and recovery effort, and in some cases, voluntarily putting their own well-being at risk. And whereas September 11th will never and should never be just another day in the hearts and minds of all Americans. And whereas September 11, 2020 is the 19th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on America. And whereas September 11th has been federally recognized as the National Day of Service and Remembrance, and has been designated Patriot Day to call upon all Americans to participate in this observance through moments of silence, the flying of the flag of the United States at half-staff, as well as community service and charitable activities in tribute and remembrance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Ari Bernstein, on behalf of the governing body and the residents of the Borough of Allendale, proclaim September 11th, 2020 as Patriot Day in the Borough of Allendale in tribute to all of the victims of the 9/11 attacks and the many who rose to service in response. And be it further resolved that September 11th, 2020 will also be observed as a voluntary day of service and remembrance in the Borough of Allendale, and call upon our citizens and organizations to consider joining in this observance by engaging in activities of tribute, solemn remembrance, and charitable service. Thank you very much. Also, in connection with 9/11, we in Allendale, we have 5 members of our ambulance corps: Daryl DeMoore-Bataro, Michael Blondin, Laura Denoya, Barbara Cohan, and Dennis Murphy, who all responded to Ground Zero on 9/11 and worked for several days on the rescue and recovery efforts. Tonight, we will be honoring these 5 hometown 9/11 heroes, and they will also, as Amy will be speaking, they'll also be, we will be recognizing them tomorrow in person. Councilwoman Wazinski is going to be reading a proclamation. I do want to recognize and thank Councilman O'Connell, who helped spearhead this as Chair of Public Safety and worked collectively with Amy to bring this to the forefront. So without further ado, Amy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So as you mentioned, it was recently brought to my attention that 5 of our very own volunteered at Ground Zero and the surrounding area from 9/11 to 9/13, 19 years ago from tomorrow. When we picked up our steel, it was so profound seeing all the twisted steel and rebar in Hangar 17 at JFK, where all the artifacts were kept. And, when we brought this steel back to Allendale on the fire truck with the flag draped over it, it was very surreal and very chaotic at the same time. And we threw together a last-minute march into town because we just didn't think it was right to bring this steel into town and just kind of like park it somewhere. But it was then that made us really think of who was really there and who was there to witness it. And though we did not realize at the time that we had some of our very own there, I think we can all agree that this year, more than ever, it's appropriate that we honor our first responders. So I would like to call out and recognize our Allendale Volunteer Ambulance Corps members, Daryl Demore Pataro, Michael Blondin, Dennis Murphy, Barbara Cohane, and Laura DeNoia. And I would like to read into the record this proclamation. Whereas on a sunny day, on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and a quiet field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania became under attack. Whereas nearly 3,000 innocent civilians were killed in the heinous attacks of September 11th, 2001. Whereas countless fire departments, police departments, first responders, government officials, workers, emergency medical personnel, and volunteers responded immediately and heroically to these horrific events. And whereas September 11, 2001 will forever be remembered for the bravery and courage of ordinary Americans, especially our first responders. Whereas first responders always show extraordinary courage in the face of danger as they are committed to serving others, especially on that fateful day. Whereas we will always remember the terrible loss of that day and continue to honor our first responders for their extraordinary bravery. Whereas it is our honor to recognize 5 of our very own from the Allendale Ambulance Corps for their bravery and dedication as first responders at Ground Zero in various capacities.
Oops. Is that her end?
I think she must be having trouble with her internet connection also.
Okay, so I will finish for her, and I don't want to step on her toes, but just didn't. So whereas our honor to recognize the 5 of our very own volunteers from the Allendale Ambulance Corps for their bravery and dedication as first responders at Ground Zero when duty called. Whereas with profound gratitude, we recognize Daryl Demore Pataro, Michael Blondin, Dennis Murphy, Barbara Cohane, and Laura DeNoia as our Borough of Allendale hometown heroes. Now, therefore, on this 10th day of September 2020, we, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Allendale, hereby recognize Daryl Demore Pataro, Michael Blondin, Dennis Murphy, Barbara Cohane, and Laura DeNoia.
Was I off?
Yeah, Amy. So yeah, you cut off. So I just tried to pick up where you were. I was just going to finish it for you.
It's been one of those days with my internet. Where did I get cut off?
Yeah, so I'm at the very end. So so I was just going to do the last paragraph and name all of their names. So if you want to do that, it's all yours. If you want me to finish it, I'll do it.
Sure, yeah. So whereas with humble gratitude, we would like to call out and recognize Daryl Demore Pataro, Michael Blondin, Dennis Murphy, Barbara Cohane, and Laura DeNoia as our hometown heroes. Now therefore shall it be resolved, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Allendale recognize these 5 as our hometown heroes because of their service at Ground Zero then, and their dedication and service to the residents of Allendale today. And as the Mayor mentioned, please join us tomorrow at 7 o'clock at our 9/11 ceremony. We have a special presentation for these 5 AVAC members and another special honor for them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Thanks so much. We now move to the administration part of the work session, and we will do the agenda review. Previously listed were that we were going to approve the minutes, but we all didn't have a chance to read through them. So we are going to pull them for the agenda now and carry that till the next meeting, the September 24th meeting. The adoption of ordinances, 20-12, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise Article 11, Section 62A of Chapter 252 of the Code of the Borough of Allendale, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. I've discussed this in the past. At the last meeting, due to COVID-19, we're adjusting our train parking permit renewal period and fees. And ordinance 20-12, which is set for second reading tonight, permanently memorializes these adjustments. Next is 20-13. As we discussed at the last meeting where we swore in our two SLEO officers, SLEO Class 3 officers, Northern Highlands and the borough have agreed to place 2 Class 3 special law enforcement officers at the high school for added security measures in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Last year there was only 1, and Northern Highlands will once again be covering all the expenses related to these positions. At the last meeting, as I mentioned, the 2 officers were appointed and sworn in as SLEOs. Ordinance 20-13 sets for the record for second reading tonight, amends our code to memorialize the position of the 2 SLEO officers. Introduction of ordinances, ordinance 20-14, ordinance to amend, supplement, or revise Article 7 regarding signing of checks. This ordinance amends our bylaws to require 3 signatures on borough issued checks in compliance with New Jersey state statutes. So that was a rule that we needed to comply with. So there now be 3 signatures to each check. Ordinance 20-15 under chapter officers and employees. This ordinance is to amend chapter 53 of the Code of the Borough of Allendale, entitled Officers and Employees, to add the title of Director of Communications and fix the salary range for this position for the year 2020. Next, we move to the consent agenda, and we have 7 resolutions listed for approval tonight. We have the bill list. I've reviewed that, Matt?
Yes, I have.
Good. And Amy, did you get a chance to look at that? Amy?
Hold on. Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, great. 20-204, liquor license renewals. This resolution authorizes the renewals of plenary retail consumption liquor license for the Allendale Bar and Grill, Savini's, and Restaurant L, and the retail distribution licenses of Allendale Liquors and Walgreens, which are expiring on September 30th. Next on the consent agenda, 20-205, this resolution authorizes the waiving of the application fees for the use of the Red Barn for the following organizations: the Allendale Garden Club, Alley Oop, Friends of Lee Memorial Library, and the Northern Highlands Board of Education. Next is 20-206 to appoint relief part-time hourly crossing guards, Margaret Darmiento and Nicholas Greenthaler. So one of our primary concerns here in Allendale is public safety, and certainly we saw with the beginning of school the need for the crossing guards, and I saw some great pictures of some of the crossing guards out the first day of school. It was great to see a return to normalcy in some respect. To that end, this resolution authorizes the hiring of 2 part-time crossing guards. We thank them for their service. We look forward to them joining our team. 20-207, authorized cancellation of uncollected grant receivable balances. This resolution cancels the remaining balances on uncollected grant balances that have been completed. Next on the agenda, 20-208, regarding Eastern Christian Children's Retreat. There's a requirement of Eastern Christian Children Retreats, Bergen County Community Development Block Grant application for COVID response to protect staff and residents initiatives. This resolution confirms the council's endorsement of this very worthwhile project. And then last on the consent agenda, 20-09, which was an added item to the consent agenda. They may not have been on the website. This resolution authorizes the hire of John Gill as interim executive assistant to the Director of Operations. And we welcome John as a member of our team. So that is the end of the agenda review. I think I still have some time. So why don't I start, see if we can get in some committee reports. I'll go in my customary order. Councilman O'Connell, are you there? Are you ready to give your report?
I am. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, sir.
I'll be brief. Calls into dispatch was 11,461. We had 911 calls totaling 1,082. Fire department calls of 127. EMS of 280. We had one dispatcher completed training. Another dispatcher should be complete in a week or so. We have our law and public safety meeting on September 15th at Borough Hall at 5:30. And Halloween will be on the agenda. See what's going to happen for Halloween and what we can do about it. And I'd just like to thank Amy for all her work in recognizing the Allendale volunteers. I gave Amy 5 names that was brought to my attention during a meeting, and she took the ball and ran with it. So thank you very much, Amy. That's all, Mayor.
Excuse me, Councilman O'Connell. You cut
Yes.
out when you said the total number of calls, 11,400.
61.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ed. And thank you for your report and for your work. Councilman Sasso, are you prepared to give your report?
I am, Ari, thank you.
Great, thank you.
So the Land Use Committee met on September 3rd. It was a pretty quick meeting for us, only about 45 or 50 minutes. We continue to look at our noise ordinance and to see where we can tweak it and update it. We also looked at our, I think it's called the 30-day or short-term rental ordinance, as it's become clear that in other communities, not in Allendale to the best of my knowledge, but in other communities in this crazy COVID world, people are renting out playgrounds and pools in private homes. And so we thought we might want to look at our short-term rental ordinance and maybe add something to that. Engineering and construction code, we always discuss it every meeting, and I'm happy to say things are going very, very smoothly there, including property maintenance, which has always been a big focus of mine. So that was it on land use. We have a land use board meeting next week, I think the 16th. I just saw the agenda. And I just want to, two other things separate from land use. I want to thank Councilwoman Wilczynski for everything she does on 9/11. For those of you that were there last year, I was a speaker. I was happy to talk about my experiences on 9/11. 9/11 has always been a very difficult day for me, and it's great having moved to Allendale that we can have this great celebration. And there was an article in the paper about a town, I think Middletown, New Jersey, who, despite everything that's going on in the world, continue to have their 9/11 ceremony. And I'm like, hey, what about us? So do we, right? So that's a great thing. I want to thank Amy for that. The other thing is, you had mentioned the SLEO officers before. As a Northern Highlands parent, and again, this crazy world we're living in right now, you know, we all held our breath on the first day of school. And when I drove up to Northern Highlands and I saw Officer Bill and Officer Dan standing out front with the rest of Allendale, or some of Allendale's other finest, I kind of exhaled a little bit and felt better about it. So I'm grateful to Chief Sherb and the Allendale Police Department and the Mayor and Council and the Board of Education in Northern Highlands for making that happen. So again, as a parent, I sleep better at night knowing they're there. And that's it.
Great, Steve, thank you. And thank you for your work on land use. I know I can say, you know, you've certain issues that have come on your radar, you've picked up and you've run with. I think I spoke to you and emailed you on one issue, and by the next day or 2 days later, you had already spoken to Borough Council, and it was part of our agenda for our meeting. So not everyone, you know, does that, and I appreciate your attentiveness and work on that in that area.
I appreciate that. I appreciate those words very much. I mean, land use is something that's very important, and it's kind of the quiet committee, but we do a lot in the background for quality of life. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councilwoman Homan, would you like to give your report now? Liz?
She's muted, but
Okay. So,
Sorry about that. Sorry.
That's
Yep.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. So water news, certainly we have continued to be busy. I'll try to not get into too many details, but I do feel like it's important to keep the council as well as the community updated on water. And so for that reason, I'll do my first request is that people are aware that we do have the virtual water meeting Wednesday, September 16th at 7 p.m. And the link was provided in the September happenings email, but it will also be on the Borough Facebook page and the Borough website so that people can just click onto the link as long as they are, signed into GoToMeeting. And it should last, I'm going to guess, depending on, I'm going to say maybe 20 to 30 minutes, but hopefully it will give people a chance to learn some of the basics of how Allendale water works, as well as some of the components that we're working on for the future. We have phase 2 water restrictions that are currently still in effect. We are hopeful to move back to phase 1 next week, but the official notification will come through the constant contact, as well as we'll make sure that it's posted to the website. But the rain today was wonderful to see and certainly puts us in the right direction. Suez, as well as working with Lane Simon and Ron Kistner, have worked together to have one of the Fairhaven pumps working in a more efficient manner. And that's important because it allows the water change in the Fairhaven tank to happen more quickly, because sometimes when we're just pulling in water from Suez, you can't both pull in water from Suez and draw from the tank at the same time. But this pump allows us to have better efficiency so that the water in the tank actually is able to be churned and utilized more often. We're also in discussions as to cost for additional upgrades, as far as looking at the return on investment and the timing for doing these upgrades. While that storm damage that occurred was unusual, we certainly want to ensure that we evaluate all of the options to say, well, could we, how could we possibly put in generators and different things to see how much that cost is and how much water we could be moving. Let's see, earlier this year, Suez had provided our water committee with information about the lead and copper rule. And the lead and copper rule, I believe it was initially introduced by the EPA in 1991, just to control lead and copper in drinking water. This is something that in New Jersey has been, in the newspaper and in the forefront. And so the NJDEP has been looking to collect information about the water service line. And if we were all on the screen, I could share a picture of the water service line. Has 2 parts. It has part 1, which the borough is primarily responsible from, which is from the main, which is in the street, to the curb box. And saying that the borough is primarily responsible for maintaining that, except in the sense where if somebody's upgrading their entire water service, they're responsible for upgrading that service all the way to the main. And also if they happen to be doing
Liz,
some sort
Liz,
of, yep.
I don't want to, but I have to.
I
It's
knew
8 o'clock. And I'm sorry, but I'm
okay.
sorry to cut you off mid-sentence, but I'm going to end the work session. And then when we get back to committee reports, we'll continue with you.
No problem.
I'm so sorry. So at this time, because due to the time of the requirement, I would request a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second,
First,
Crouch.
Second, Homan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, stay where you are. We're going to come right back. Okay, at this time it is 8 o'clock and this is the September 10th, 2020 regular session of the Allendale Mayor and Council. Welcome to everyone who is joining us via telephone conference. And just if for whatever reason you didn't make the work session, we are having video issues due to our modem. Optimum could not repair it in time, so we are just audio and not video. I would ask you to please mute your devices so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There will be 2 opportunities during the regular session for the public to speak, and we'll make sure if you would like to that you'll be given the opportunity, and we will advise you of those appropriate times. The next on the agenda is the Open Public Meetings Act announcement. Michelle, if you could please read that.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting by the September 7, 2020 Sunshine Notice was sent to the record, the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger, and has been posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building and borough website.
Great, thank you. So what we're going to do, we're going to all rise to salute the flag, and then I'm going to ask everyone to please remain standing, and we're going to have a moment of silence after the salute to the flag in memory of all those who lost their lives in the horrific attacks 19 years ago tomorrow. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Michelle, please conduct the roll call.
Sure. Councilwoman Homan,
Here.
Councilman O'Connell,
Here.
Councilman O'Toole,
Here.
Councilman Sasso,
Here.
Councilman Strouch,
Here.
Councilwoman Wilsinski,
Here.
and Mayor Bernstein.
Here, thank you, Michelle. And as it discussed during the work session, we're not going to be approving any minutes tonight. They've been carried to the 9/24 meeting. So next on the agenda is for public comment on any agenda items only. So at this time, if there's anyone who wishes to be heard on agenda items only, please state your name so you can be recognized. Not seeing anyone, we'll close the meeting to the public for this at this juncture. Ordinance for second reading and public hearing. Ordinance 20-12, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise Article 11, Section 62A of Chapter 252 of the Code of the Borough of Allendale entitled Vehicles and Traffic. And Ordinance 20-13, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise the Code of the Borough of Allendale Departments, Chapter 26. Michelle, please read the title of the ordinances.
Sure. The following ordinances published herewith were first read by title only on August 27, 2020, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the municipal building and borough website. Ordinance 20-12, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise Article 11, Section 62A of Chapter 252 of the Code of the Borough of Allendale entitled Vehicles and Traffic, and Ordinance 20-13, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise the Code of the Borough of Allendale Departments, Chapter 26.
Great, thank you, Michelle. I would open the floor for public comments on ordinance 20-12 and ordinance 20-13. Not seeing anyone, I would request a council member to make a motion to move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinance 20-12 and ordinance 20-13, notice of same to be published according to law.
So moved, Stroud.
So moved, O'Connor.
Thank you, Jim. Second, Ed O'Connell. Great, thank you both. Michelle, please conduct a roll call.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
Councilman Strouch,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next is introduction of ordinances, and ordinance 20-14 and ordinance 20-15. I would request a council member to make a motion to introduce and pass on first reading ordinances 20-14 and 20-15 and set the hearing for September 24th, 2020 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter in the council chambers of the Allendale Municipal Building.
So moved, O'Toole.
Thank you, Matt. A second?
Second, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Michelle, please read the titles of the ordinance and conduct a roll call.
Ordinance 20-14, an ordinance to amend, supplement, and revise Article 7, Appendix A 276-36 of the bylaws of the Borough Council of the Borough of Allendale entitled Signing of Checks, and Ordinance 20-15, an ordinance to amend Chapter 53 of the Code of the Borough of Allendale, officers and employees to fix the salaries, wages, and compensation of the officers and employees of the Borough of Allendale for the year 2020.
Great.
Council,
Right now, you're going to conduct a roll call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell.
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
Councilman Strouch,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next is the consent agenda, which I reviewed in the work session. So I would request a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Amy. A second?
Second, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Michelle, please conduct a roll call.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
Councilman Strouch,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Any unfinished business? I don't believe so. Any new business? Nothing. Okay, we'll continue with our committee reports. So Liz, I'm sorry that I cut you off midstream, but if you want to continue, now would be a good time.
I was so picturing my water service line. I hope I can conjure up the image for everybody again. So I was talking just about the giving an overview of the water service lines, the two parts, the part that the borough owns and maintains primarily, and then from the curb box to the house is the portion that the resident is responsible for maintaining. And I was just giving two caveats because I think it's important that if somebody's doing an upgrade, they have to upgrade all the way to the street, and so that's a time when they're responsible for the main, so the curb box also. Or if they're doing something like putting in a swimming pool and it's disrupted, so there's some sort of break to that portion of it, then the resident would also be responsible for it. But for the part of the lead and copper rule that we were initially told that we would have several years to collect this information, because the portion of the service line that goes from the curb box to the house hasn't been the borough's responsibility. And so it would not be something that we would have kept records on. There are times where obviously now the information is collected electronically. And so they are in some of our reports. On the borough side, every time we're paving the street, we are now looking at the makeup of the main to the curb box. And certainly lead has been banned since 1987. And and we also have lead and copper rule testing that's done on a regular basis as just part of our NJDEP water safety testing. And Allendale has, had no indication that we have a lead problem. But we have submitted the report to the NJDEP, and we will be continuing to add to the numbers. Right now, understanding both sides of the service line, we have about 30% of all of the residences that have water, that's part of the Allendale utility. We are now, Lane Simon has been tremendous because he is having to go through actual paper documents, which, we haven't always, that's a process. As well as we're putting into place a process that each time Suez goes in to change a meter or something like that, that they will also be working on their end to help identify what is on the resident side. The other update that I think is important is that I am really trying to get the Northwest Bergen water utilities to have more communication, because even though we all like to live and work in our little bubbles, water is something that impacts all of us. So I had requested with Ari and Joanne Minichetti of the mayor from Upper Saddle River that I be able to come or virtually attend one of the mayor meetings, and that we would have some water discussion about all of these requirements that each of our municipalities need to be meeting. And it's important that we meet because we do want to have safe water, but just how can that be best done in an economic and potentially collaborative fashion? So that's my report. Again, I hope people will come to the virtual meeting next week on Wednesday, September 16th at 7 p.m. And if you have any questions either before or after, please send me an email. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Amy, would you like to give your report now?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Alrighty, so 220, 230, we are still working through our financial agreements, both of them, one for the warehouse and one for the residential, and our redevelopment agreement with our experts. We are coming to a closure on that, and looks like we'll be setting up an all hands meeting with both teams to work through the final phases in the next week or so. We do have our remediation starting on Monday. We've had many meetings these past weeks reviewing all of the documentation and insurance that is necessary for this. Our waste classification soil came back good and the site was approved. So keep your fingers crossed for good weather on Monday so we can get our remediation taken care of. We are also going to be having a field team meeting on Tuesday with Hampshire to work through some of the boundary line agreements and as well as the meets and bounds on the property. We received preliminary drawings for the municipal building and condos, so we still have a few changes that need to be made. Then this will be presented to the entire council, and then we will have a meeting with the vision committee to present it as well. And our plans are intended to come before the land use board at the October 21st meeting. As we discussed, we will be having our 9/11 candlelight ceremony tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful night. We have, of course, our 5 first responders that we're looking forward to presenting with another honor, as well as a speaker, Dr. Jeff Burks, who is the chief dental identification forensic scientist that worked in the medical examiner's office in New York City. We are starting our streetscape phase. So this is with a DOT grant. This is going to be also starting on September 14th. We are talking the first phase, which will be the removal of the trees, and it is going to be starting on the side by Caldwell Banker on one side of the street up to Maple Street. We will be doing the initial work, which includes removing pavers and curbing. And then there's new lights that will be put in. So we are working. I know Ron Kistner was busy hand delivering some notifications to all of the merchants. We are going to do our best to keep everybody informed, as well as keeping the merchants open as much as possible. Crestwood Lake, we had a great, successful season. I'm just so pleased that everybody worked so great together. Our lake director, Tom Biscardi, Ron, and our OEM team all banded together to make this work. We were all thrilled, the mayor and council, that we could provide this for our Allendale residents. And then our DPW really stepped up, Lane, Ray, Brian, and especially Richie, to really just make sure that everything was in top shape for everybody. So we are scheduling our post-Crestwood meeting because we're always looking for ways to improve. So it was a great year all around. Our playground with a Bergen County grant will be going in by the end of this year. We had another site meeting at the playground area, and actually we just received some renderings today. So we're looking forward to getting that moving as another project that is going to improve that entire area. There will be a new fence that is going to be around the playground as well. And hopefully we'll get to use that in our band shell, so that whole area has received some nice uplifts through grants for the last couple of years. And just lastly, we sent out our third newsletter. Again, I hope everybody is enjoying all the great information that's in there. Thanks to Michelle and Tatiana to really helping out with the format. And we look forward to keeping that up and sending one out at least monthly for a while anyway. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you, Amy. Councilman
Sure.
O'Toole?
Yes, sir. Not all that much to report this evening. The committee has not met for a general committee meeting since our last meeting, but we will be having a meeting next week. The committee did, however, have the pleasure of meeting with and interviewing the borough's newest intern, a young man named Miles. Miles comes to us from a program at Northern Highlands, which places students in internships tailored to their interests and goals. Miles has an interest in government, so he'll be assisting in the office, helping out borough staff with the day-to-day running of the borough on the days that he can be here. So we welcome Miles, wish him the best of luck here and in the upcoming school years. We do for all the students and everyone heading back to school. And a nod of thanks to Councilman Sasso and Councilwoman Wozinski for getting the ball rolling on this internship program. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you very much, Matt. Councilman Strouch, would you like to give your report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bernstein. Before I start my report, I want to echo the sentiments and thanks to our first responders who are being honored tonight, as well as tomorrow at the 9/11 Memorial service, which I will be attending. I checked with my doctor, and as long as I wear a mask and socially distance, he said, have a lovely evening. And then we talked about the 19 years that had passed since September 11, 2001. The DPW department, well, the team, what can I say without sounding like a broken record? They continue to do an amazing job. It's gotten to the point now where, you know, an email is an email about a fallen tree blocking a path into Crestwood is responded to within a couple hours and cleared. You know, we're dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane that, you know, left parts of Allendale without power for up to 6 days, while simultaneously, you know, keeping Crestwood operational and preparing for the upcoming winter, which, you know, is going to come. So it's just something you have to be prepared for. Amy, in her report, did you know, mention a couple of DPW workers that I would also like to give shout outs, because I just feel like these people are continuing to raise the bar, and I can't let it go unnoticed. Dan Richards, who's our crew chief, among other things. Most people in Allendale are wearing many hats. he's our borough mechanic, and so he is responsible for keeping the equipment working so that all the rest of the DPW staff can do what they need to do to keep Allendale running and being a desirable community to live in. But he's not afraid of stepping down and picking up a rake and helping out at Crestwood Lake whenever it's needed. And Lane Simon, who, for those of you who don't know, he's our water guy. We do use Suez Water as our management company, but Lane's our water guy. And in addition to having that and other responsibilities, quite full plate, he didn't shirk when he was asked to do the daily raking of the beach at Crestwood early in the season. And that's a big part of the Crestwood experience for those people who consider Crestwood to be one of Allendale's crown jewels, along with the school system and the sense of community. Rich McDowell, who I know I've singled him out a couple times, and I apologize, Rich, but you can call the Lake Czar, and I think you've earned that title, because every year I swear the lake gets a little bit better, and that's his baby. The treatment of the water, which used to be handled by other people, Rich took over several years ago, and he's dialed it in, and it shows in the beauty of the lake there. And Ray Frazier was very instrumental in helping Rich keep the lake in shape, as were all the DPW workers. But Ray really, again, rose when the call went out. He responded, and on top of all this, 9/11 ceremony is tomorrow, so we wanted to make sure that area was looking good too. And I think they did a fabulous job. And I hope everybody turns out tomorrow, wear a mask, keep socially distanced, and we'll give our respects to those fallen 19 years ago. So I'm going to end my report there, Mayor, and thank you.
Jim, thank you very much for your report. Mayor's report, let me just touch on a couple issues. With much anticipation, Governor Murphy has once again permitted indoor dining. Restaurants were able to open their doors to patrons at 25% capacity starting last Friday. We know food establishments have been hard hit by this pandemic, so this is welcome news. We wish them all the success in the world. We've encouraged everyone to support our local restaurants and stores to keep to show our support. We will also look to do something, continue to do outside dining in some capacity, so stay tuned for that. As at the risk of being a broken record, but I'm happy to pile on. Thank you to Councilwomen Wazinski and Homan, as well as Lake Manager Tom Viscardi, the Crestwood team, Ron Kishner, and the DPW for a great, successful season at the lake. The ability to look forward, the ability to see, identify a problem, and figure out a way around it. My hat's off to all of you. Amy, you did a great job, and everyone else did as well. So a true collective effort, a lot of happy residents. Pleased to announce that our borough's tax assessor, Angela Matisse, has been appointed to the New Jersey Supreme Court's Committee on Tax Court for the 2022 term as a designee of the Association of the Municipal Assessors of New Jersey. So on behalf of the governing body and the borough, we congratulate Angela on this truly outstanding honor and accomplishment. This week marked the start of the school year for Hillside, Brookside, and Northern Highlands. While back to school is different this year, no matter the route your child is taking, we wish them a successful and safe year ahead. With the increase in vehicular and foot traffic, I want to remind everyone to be alert and practice traffic safety, especially obeying the speed limits. And I was happy to see the pictures this year, this week, of the kids going out there and the parents and the crossing guards and everyone. I also, so again, and thank you to our crossing guards. Yesterday, I participated in the grand reopening for the Dunkin' Donuts in town. It was a pleasure. So thank you to Tom Oliver and his wife Raina for having us, for hosting us, and for all that they've done. They've been here for 16 years, and they are they are one of our foundation stores. Not that we like one over the other, but Dunkin' Donuts and a cup of coffee is the start for many people. And we appreciate that they've been here, and they have no plans on leaving. They love it here, and we love having them here. So thank you to them, and many years of continued success. And on a much drier note, on Saturday, I will be attending the Northwest Bergen Mayors Meeting, which meets monthly. 13 mayors from the local boroughs, and we will be meeting with a representative from Orange and Rockland, Saturday at 8:30. So to the extent that there's anything noteworthy that comes from that, I will report back to the council and to the public. And that is the end of my mayor's report. And now we'll go to staff reports. Borough Attorney Ray Wiss, anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor. Very briefly, while admitting that I was on vacation last week, it was nonetheless a fairly busy time since our last meeting. Worked with Mr. Kistner on various personnel matters and contract matters, with our borough clerk on ordinances and resolutions that found their way on tonight's agenda. And obviously the 220-230 committee was very, very busy, as it always is from week to week. That's it, Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. Michelle, our acting municipal clerk.
Thank you. Tatiana and I were on a joint call with all of Bergen County's election divisions and the other towns today to discuss the upcoming general election. We had sent out a pretty comprehensive info in the process for voting in the November election in the newsletter. However, there are some updates, so we will get that out to the residents as soon as we can.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I just wanted to remind everybody, October 13th is the last day to register to vote.
Okay.
They asked us to
Great.
Send that message out today.
Okay, good.
And there is a website, I should just mention, there is a website where individuals can go on and confirm their registration. I actually used it. It takes about 15 seconds and you get a response, and it gives your name and the date when you probably first registered back as a teenager or a 20-something-year-old. So
Great.
the website, I think, came out maybe about a week ago or so, but it does work rather quickly.
Okay, good. Good information, and we will continue to give updates as to how that's going to unfold. Thank you very much for that. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Ron Kistner, our Director of Operations and Administrative Officer, and 10 other hats.
Thank you, Ron. I actually do have a few things. Just to actually, I guess, pile on some more. I've been busy, you'll see, with some other projects that get started next week. And I forgot to mention about taking the diving boards down. Rich McDowell and Lane Simon took it upon themselves take the diving boards down, because even though the lake is officially closed, it's some warm weather. We're all young at one time. It's a little tempting. So the diving boards were all removed today. It's another example. First thing Tuesday morning, before I even got in, Rich was up at the lake, picked up the pizza boxes from the celebration of the Labor Day closing, and Lane took it upon himself to drag and rake the lake, so it actually looked pristine. The lake is now closed. As Councilman Linsky said, the downtown streetscape project for West Allendale is starting on Monday the 14th. We've had several meetings on it. The contractor who won the bid is Caro Construction. I've worked with them in the past in different jobs I've been with. They're an excellent contractor. I will forewarn, I've done anywhere from 12 to 20 of these streetscape projects, and they are very difficult projects. The unknown occurs pretty regularly. You never know when you start taking up sidewalks and wiring. I've never had one of these go smooth. So I am prepared to be up there and be active and involved. Nagler Engineering, who I've done numerous large county park projects with, will be the project manager, and I have worked with both Nagler and Zakara Construction, but you'll see me around West Allendale a lot the next, I'm hoping through probably Thanksgiving at least. Some other good news we'll be very busy next couple of weeks here in Allendale. The municipal paving project program will be starting as of now next Thursday. It's the milling and paving of the following streets. Cambridge, we'll be completing Cambridge, Heights Road from West Crescent to the end, High Street, that little street off Myrtle, and partially some of Proco, whatever funds we have left, we'll start doing some paving Million paving on Pearl Court. That whole thing between the Million paving, if we start next Thursday, will be finished by the following week. It's a quick but a very needed project. Another project which is going to be started and it's going to be rather difficult, but from past experience is great project. Orange and Rockland will be going from Brookside by McIntyre, putting the wires underground, similar to what they did on West Crescent, East Crescent last fall. Again, one of the projects done, it's a wonderful project. Next time, when this project's done in Trees Fall, they won't be taking down wires because the wires are underground. It's a very expensive project, and it's a rather lengthy, detailed project. I'm glad I'm not the manager in Wyckoff, because when they get to Wyckoff, they got to cross Wyckoff Avenue and Grand, and that's where the YMCA. It's going to be a very difficult part of the project when they go there, but that's not my problem. I'm happy if you go, when you go on Hillside from Forest down to West Crescent, you'll see utility markouts. I'm happy to announce the county in their wisdom has agreed to, we're going to be one of the roads, that's going to be one of the roads counties we paving this year. It's Tilcon won the bid. I have my notes for the guys at Tilcon. They're going to be in Lodi first, and I believe Leonia, but they will be in Allendale this fall, and that'll be a nice road to get finished. And don't know how successful I'm going to be, but under the urgency of Mayor Bernstein, and I think with some influence from former Mayor White, I'm trying to work with the county to get Franklin Turnpike paved from the Waldwick border. I'm pushing up to Ramsey, but we'll see how far we get. But I'll keep them both Mayor Bernstein and former Mayor White updated on that, because it becomes it's a pretty frequent question for both of them. So that's the amount of projects we got coming up. So we do have a busy fall. And I do want to say you did call Michelle the acting clerk, but in my book, she's the #1 clerk. Couldn't get all this stuff done without you and your staff. Michelle, you've been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, title aside, name aside, she's Michelle and Tatiana. What you guys have done, and we said it. I know you don't like the attention, but
that's why I do it, just to give.
I know, that's all right. So if you all
see how red I can get.
if you could all see, I know it's just audio, but you all see how red she is. But Michelle, it's all warranted. You do a wonderful job, and the residents think so as well. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last time, I will open the meeting to the public on any matter, and anyone who wishes to be heard. So if you'd like to be heard, please state your name.
Hi, Mayor Bernstein. This is Kristen Sarnas again, 74 Heights.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Just one quick question for Mr. Kistner. Thank you for explaining about the paving of Heights Road. I'm very excited about that. I just have a question. When Orange and Rockland was on our street last year, digging up all different holes and stuff, did they actually bury the lines and get that project totally done? Because we were under the impression that it wasn't really finished and they were going to be coming back again. So obviously, if you start paving next week and then they're planning to rip it up again, I'm sure that's not the case, but I just wanted to check.
Good question. No, the part that's done, what they have to run underneath doesn't affect the paving. And thanks for the segue. I did speak to 2 representatives from Orange and Rockland. I had a conversation with them last December about help paving. I don't expect to pave the whole thing because it is in some poor condition prior to them being there. But they put the final coat on it. You see where they did the trench, they put a final coat on. That's not my problem. The part of the municipal paving project for your street is about $55,000 estimated, and I've got them agreed to pay half of that. So what's nice about the paving of Heights Road, Orange and Rockland is paying for half of it. And your question about them digging it up, no, that phase of the project they need to still do is all just running underground wires. It doesn't affect the actual paving.
Oh, like they run them in from the end of the street or something where it's not right in the middle of the road.
It doesn't have to affect the road at all. They should. It's the way they do it. It doesn't affect the roadway.
Okay. All right. I guess I don't need to understand that part. I was just hoping that we weren't going to do it. I'm so glad that we're going to finally pave our road. And then all of a sudden, Orange and Rockland's going to tear it apart again. And I got nervous. But thank you very much.
No, we're good on that end of it. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Not seeing anyone, I would request a motion to adjourn the regular session.
So moved.
So moved, Holman.
Great. First, Matt, second, Liz. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And that concludes our meeting.
Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.